without my own volition. "Why?" The monosyllable was sharp with anxiety. I knew better than to keep my part of the story from her. I told her of Dicky's growing coldness to me, his anxiety to get the train upon which Miss Draper traveled, the neighborhood gossip, his determination not to have me meet her sister. I also laid bare the coldness with which I had treated the girl, and my determination never to say a word which would lead Dicky to believe I was jealous of her. When I had finished, Lillian leaned back in her chair and laughed lightly. "Is that all?" she demanded. "I thought you had something really serious to tell me. If you'll do exactly as I tell you, we'll beat this game hands down." "I'll do just as you say," I responded, although it humiliated me to be put in the position of trying to beat any game, the stake of which was my husband's affections. "Well, then, that is settled," she said, rising. "Now for the first gun of the campaign. Call Dicky up, tell him you just lunched with me, and you are ready to go home any time he is." "Oh, I can't do that. I couldn't bear to feel that he might prefer to take the train with her." Lillian came to my side, gripped my shoulders hard, and looked into my eyes grimly. "See here," she said, "are you going to be a baby or a woman in this thing?" I swallowed hard. I knew she was right. "I'll do whatever you wish," I responded meekly. So I called Dicky on the telephone, and after explaining my unexpected presence in town, arranged to meet him at the station and go home with him. "Sounds as if we were going to dine with friend husband," said Lillian as I hung up the receiver. "Yes, we're going home by trolley from Jamaica. It ought to be a beautiful trip. Dicky must have been thinking of such a trip before, for he told me there was a train to Jamaica at 5 minutes of 4 which connects with the trolley, and he usually gets mixed on the schedule of the trains from Marvin." "What's that?" Lillian stopped short, then turned the subject. "How would you like to go down to the station on top of a bus?" she asked, "or would you prefer a taxi?" "The bus, by all means," I returned. "I see we are kindred souls," she said. "I dote on a bus ride myself." We were within a few blocks of the railroad station when she said: "I hope I am mistaken, but I think Miss Draper will be a member of your trolley trip home, and I want you to be prepared to act as if it were the thing you most desired." "If you are right, I will not go," I said, a cold fury at my heart. "I will take the next train home." "You will do no such thing." Lillian's voice was imperative. "You promised you would let me be your big sister in this thing, and you've got to let me run it my way. See here, my dear," her tones were caressing now, "you must use the weapons of a woman of the world in this situation, not those of an unsophisticated girl. The primitive woman from the East Side would waltz in and destroy the beauty of any lady she found philandering, however innocently, with her spouse. The proud, sensitive, inexperienced woman would have done just what you have contemplated, go home alone and ignore the wanderers. But, my dear, you must do neither of those things. You cannot afford to play in Draper's hand like that." "Tell me what I must do," I said wearily. "In a minute. First let me put you right on one question. Dicky is not in love with this girl yet. If he were, he would not wish any meeting between you and her. He is interested and attracted, of course, as any impressionable man with an eye for beauty would be if thrown in constant companionship with her. And, forgive me, but I am sure you have taken the wrong tack about it. You must dissemble, act a part, meet her feminine wiles with sharper weapons. Now, you have been cold to her, avoided seeing her when possible, and while not quarreling with Dicky about her, yet evidencing your disapproval of her in many little ways." "It is quite true," I answered miserably. "Then turn over a new leaf right now. You may be sure at this minute that Dicky is worrying more about your attitude toward this trip than he is over Miss Draper's dimples. He expects you to have a grouch. Give him a surprise. Greet the lady smilingly, express your pleasure at having her companionship on your trip, but manage to register delicately your surprise at her being one of the party. No, better leave that part to me. You do the pleasant greeting. I'll put over the catty stuff. But on your honor, until I see you again, will you put down your feelings and cultivate Grace Draper, letting your attitude change slowly so Dicky will suspect nothing?" "I'll try," I said faintly. "You'll do it," she said bluntly. "I want her to be almost a member of the family by the time I get there." The trip by trolley with my husband and Grace Draper through the beautiful country lying between Jamaica and Hempstead will always remain in my memory as a turning point in my ideas of matrimony and its problems. Lillian Underwood's talk with me had destroyed all my previous conceptions of dignified wifely behavior in the face of a problem like mine. So all during the journey home, through the fragrant September air, I paid as much attention to my role of calm friendliness as any actress would to a first night appearance, remembering Lillian's advice to make the transition gradual from the frigid courtesy of my former meetings with Grace Draper to the friendly warmth we had planned for our campaign. I adopted the manner one would use to a casual but interesting acquaintance. I kept the conversational ball rolling on almost every topic under the sun. But I found that the burden of the talk fell on my shoulders. The girl was plainly uneasy and puzzled at my manner. Dicky's thoughts I could not fathom. I caught his eyes fixed on me once or twice with admiration and a touch of bewilderment in them, but he said very little. It was a wonderful night, warm with the languor of September, fragrant with the heavy odors of ripening fruit and the late autumn blossoms. There was no moon, but the long summer twilight had not yielded entirely to the darkness, and the stars were especially bright. A night for lovers, for vows given and returned. It was this, if ever a night was. What a wonderful journey this would have been for me if only this other woman was not on the other side of my husband. Then with savage resentment I realized that she might also be thinking what possibilities the evening would have held for her if I had not been a third on the little journey. Whatever Dicky was thinking I dared not guess. Whatever it was, I was sure that his thoughts were not dangerously charged with emotion as were mine and Grace Draper's. I was fiercely glad of his irresponsibility for the first time. "Come on, girls, here's Crest Haven. I've got a brilliant idea. We'll get one of these open flivvers they have at the station and motor to Marvin luxuriously. Beats waiting for the train, All Hallow." I opened my lips to protest against the extravagance, then closed them without speaking, flushing hotly at the danger I had escaped. Nothing would have so embarrassed Dicky and delighted Miss Draper as any display of financial prudence on my part. "Oh, Mr. Graham, how wonderful!" Miss Draper gave the impression of finding her voice mislaid somewhere about her, and deciding suddenly to use it. "This is just the night for a motor ride." Her voice matched the night, cooing, languorous, seductive. I knew if she had voiced her real thoughts, she would have willed that I be dropped anywhere by the roadside, so that she might have the enchanting solitude of the ride with Dicky. A daring thought flashed into my brain as we stepped into the taxi. Why not pretend to play into her hand? It would prove to both Dicky and her that I was indifferent to their close friendship. and I was secretly anxious to see what way Dicky would reply.